Very much. Let's get some more on what's going on. Joining us now, Republican Senator James Risch of Idaho. He's a member of both the Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committees. Senator, thanks as usual for joining us. We have lots to discuss. Let's go through several of the late-breaking developments. First of all, the German media now reporting that France actually alerted German police to what was described as an Iraqi sleeper who had plans to blow up this soccer stadium in Hanover, Germany today at a game, an international match between the Netherlands and Germany that Angela Merkel, the chancellor, was supposed to attend as well. What can you tell us about it specifically? Do you know if this was another ISIS plot?
Well, there obviously, at this point, you can't say positively that it was an ISIS plot, but chances are 99.9% that it was. It's really early in the investigation on this, Wolf. Obviously, the European authorities are working on that. We do have people over there now, as you've noted on your show, that are willing and ready to help. And our technology, our intelligence work is substantially better than theirs, substantially better than anyone else in the world. They do call on us for help, and we stand ready to help. And it's in our interest to do so because we're in the crosshairs just like they are.
We're going to get to that in a moment. But these cell phones that were found on the scene, presumably belonging to the terrorists who killed themselves with their explosive vests, they're potentially could be critical in determining, getting more information about these terrorists who executed the attacks and how the whole thing unfolded, right?
Right. Yeah, I would give that a maybe, but what it does do is it confirms now in open source what we've known for a long time, and that is that these people are very, very good in using the dark side of the internet to communicate and to be able to do it to where you can't get at it, at least under present technology. But obviously, whenever these things happen, when a new technology comes up, there's always ways to try to penetrate that. But for right now, it is a serious problem for us, as you've noted in previous shows.
How sophisticated was this terror attack in Paris?
Well, more sophisticated than most. People always said that the 9/11 attack was very sophisticated. When you break it down, it really wasn't, particularly compared to the kind of things that are done today. This one, the one that took place in Paris, required a lot of coordination. And I think if it tells us anything, it tells us that they're very good at using social media and the means of communication today that are available to ordinary people and people who are engaged in nefarious acts.
The plot clearly was missed by law enforcement, by intelligence in Europe. Here in the United States, I should say, as well, there wasn't any direct intelligence warning of this imminent attack in Paris, I take it. Is that right?
To a degree. First of all, the one thing that is clear to us is that the 4 people who have been identified by the French were known to us. They were people that were known to us. They were not known to the Europeans. And I suspect we're going to do some things to change that. As far as the mechanics of the attack, the exact time and that sort of thing, you're right, that we didn't have that, and it was the result of the encrypted type of communications that they're using. There was, as has been reported, general indications that things were heating up. And of course, once it started to unfold, everybody knew what was happening.
Well, when you say these 4 terrorists were known to the U.S., were they on U.S. watch lists, do not fly lists?
Yeah, well, if I can't tell you exactly what that means, but what I can tell you is these people were known to us, known to be involved in terrorist activity, known to be people who needed to be scrutinized. Which exact lists they were on is classified.
All right, Senator, we have more to discuss because we're getting more information right now in this expanding investigation. Stay with us, much more with Senator Risch when we come back. Senator Risch is still with us. Senator, ISIS says they're coming. They're coming here to Washington, D.C. next. How is it believed ISIS would attempt to attack the U.S.? Is this a serious threat?
Well, it is a serious threat. This video that's gotten a lot of play in and of itself doesn't mean a lot because there's lots of those floating around out there on the internet. The timing of it, however, is troubling because it comes right on the heels of not just the Paris attack, but if you step back and think that in the last 3 weeks, ISIS has killed over 500 people, and they've attacked the air transportation system, and were successful. They used IEDs in Lebanon. They were successful. And now they hit the soft targets, which are very, very vulnerable in Paris. And if you put all three of those together, I mean, that is pretty impressive that they were able to hit all three of those kinds of ways of carrying on an attack. So it's troubling. It's concerning to all of us. And as time goes by, we're continuing to ratchet things up here in the United States. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify one thing, because you told us that 4 of these terrorists who were involved in the Paris terror attacks were known to the U.S., but we had been reporting, we had been told that none of them were really on any U.S. watch lists. And there seems to be some confusion there. What specifically, how far can you go in telling us what's going on?
You know, I can't, Wolf. What I can tell you is this. They were known to the U.S. How that information came to us, the manner that we got that, what lists are on, that stuff is all classified, and I can't go there, and you're going to have to cut me slack on that.
Right,
but I can tell you that they were known to us.
Because the only thing that concerns me, if they were known to the U.S. and they weren't on any U.S. watch list, that would seem to be a major blunder there, and I think we're going to have to investigate to make sure that wasn't the case. But I'm going to leave you alone. I know you can't talk about it.
There was no major blunder there. Let me tell you that.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about this mastermind of the Paris attacks, this guy, Abdul Hamid Abaoud. Back in January, right here in the Situation Room, we had a report from our Paul Cruikshank. I want you to listen to this.
Well, Wolf, a senior Belgian official tells me they think that the ringleader behind this plot in Belgium last week was very likely Abdul Hamid Abaoud, a Belgian Moroccan who's 27 years old, who is thought to have traveled in around January of 2014 to Syria and to have connected there in Syria and Iraq with the senior leadership of ISIS.
All right, so back in January, we reported that. We knew he was a threat. U.S. officials knew he was a threat. So why wasn't more done to target this guy, to find him?
Well, you know, we do look for the high-value targets. There are lots and lots of them. Here in the United States, it is substantially easier to do than it is over there. And there's a lot of different reasons, but one of them is that they have, particularly France, particularly Belgium, have a very large population of Middle Eastern, North African people, many of whom are on the list that they want to keep an eye on. You heard earlier that the French themselves have admitted that they are overwhelmed with a number of people they have that need to be watched. And so as a result of that, we obviously are focused first and foremost on the United States, who's coming, who's going, who's doing what here. It is much more difficult for the Europeans to do that for the reasons I mentioned and for other reasons.
Yeah, I know that they've got their problems over there. Final question, Senator. What U.S. officials have said to me, what really concerns them about ISIS is the tons of cash. They have a lot of money. They have an oil revenue. When they took over Mosul in northern Iraq, a city of 2 million people, they robbed the banks. They took the gold. They took the cash. They've got billions of dollars to launch terror attacks. How much of a problem is that?
Big problem. In fact, if anything that we can underscore there is that is the difference between they and Al-Qaeda. They have been very smart as far as focusing on how important money is in carrying on the jihad. And they get their money from essentially 3 sources. They get it from the sale of oil, they get it from kidnappings, and they get it from contributions from wealthy radicals around the world. And early on when they started, the assessment was they were taking in about $2 million a day. That has gone up, but I can tell you that that is a specific targeting enterprise for the United States of America and for our partners who are trying to do something about ISIS.
It's a huge problem indeed. Money talks, as they say, and they've got a lot of it. Senator Risch, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Just ahead, we're learning new information about the investigation into the Paris attacks. We're going back to Paris Live. That's coming up. Also, Vladimir Putin confirming a terror attack on a Russian plane and vowing to punish the perpetrators. How closely is he willing to work with the U.S. in this war against ISIS?